Tech at lightning speed. We're going to have 3 innovation showcases on disruptive technology, two on artificial intelligence and one on blockchain education. So we're going to have to join me to welcome our first disruptor, Kristian Collin, CEO from Differ.
Everybody, close your eyes. Hi, my name is Kristian. I'm very happy to be here. I'm the founder of Differ and also an entrepreneurship lecturer at the University of Oslo, where I've been teaching for 8 years. Most of you probably know this, but higher education has a student retention problem. More than 50% of students say they can't keep up with their courses. And 44% of bachelor students in the US drop out without even finishing their degrees. Students in higher ed are clearly not getting the help and support they need to succeed. So how can we improve this? 2 years ago, we set out to solve this problem together with BI Norwegian Business School, the University of Oslo, and other piloting partners we picked up along the way. And the first thing we did, we discovered that teachers were actually finding it really, really hard and difficult to reach their students and engage their students through their existing learning platforms, like the learning management systems or any communication channels they had been given by the universities. So the first thing we did was to create a class communication app where the students or where the teachers can more easily reach their students and where the students can more easily help and support each other. Now, active students learn more and are more likely to stay in school. So the purpose of this is to create an active learning community around their study situation and around their courses. And so far, we've been able to increase student engagement and participation rates from around 10 to 15% in existing solutions and Facebook groups used for education, and up to 80% inside Differ. So that's a step in the right direction. Now, inside Differ, we started observing how some teachers were really, really good at sending the right type of follow-up messages to the right students at the right times to increase their engagement and learning activities in the community. So we started thinking, how can we automate this using a chatbot teaching assistant? Now, a chatbot, quite simply, is a computer program that can send messages to people through a chat application. And by taking data from the course plan, which is what the students should be doing, and comparing that with activity data, what each student actually was doing, we could start sending out targeted follow-up messages to these students. Let me give you a few examples. Let's say you have a lecture coming up in a few hours, and for that lecture there was something you had to prepare, but you have not done so yet. The chatbot can then pick this up from the system and send you a message telling you what topic will be talked about in the lecture and also what video to watch to prepare. Now, this is a very, very simple example, but one where we have more than 50%, actually 53% engagement rate and response rates from the students, causing the students to be more prepared and also participate more when the class comes. One more example. Let's say you have an assignment due in 3 days, a big assignment, and the chatbot can pick this up through the system and send a message asking if you need help. If you do need help, then the chatbot can put you into a group chat with other students who are working on the exact same assignment at the same time, so you can figure things out together. We've seen the chatbot trigger group discussions like this that's lasted for days or weeks. One final example. Oh, clicker didn't register. Now you just have to read this, I'm sorry. That's it. One last example. Let's say you are working with something related to your class and you are stuck. You can't really understand the subject matter. Most students will actually give up and face the risk of failing or reducing their grades than actually ask what they perceive as being stupid questions in front of their classmates or teachers. But by using the chatbot to trigger the students to share their questions with the bot, then the bot can answer them directly or post them in the class communities on behalf of the students. Now, these are just 3 very simple examples. And there are many, many more and more sophisticated ones. And what we're doing is we're working together with our pilot partners to figure out what is the best practice for this in higher education. And it turns out that the key success criteria that we have found is to have a good match between what we call the external trigger, which is the message we are sending to the student, and the internal trigger of the recipient. This is the emotional state of the student at the time when they receive it. So in this example, John is on his way to a lecture and is wondering exactly what he should have prepared for the lecture. That's a perfect time for John to receive a message telling him how to prepare. But imagine this same message being sent just 2 hours earlier when John was sitting working on a different assignment in a different course and really stressing about an assignment, making a deadline. The same exact message would have the opposite effect, cause an interruption, and cause the feeling of spam and stress in the life of the student. So that's the opposite of what we want to achieve. So the difference between success and failure, the difference between spam and magic with these kinds of follow-ups is to have a good match between internal triggers and external triggers. And herein lies also the main difficulty, because the internal triggers, what each and every student needs help with at any given time, is different from student to student. So to make this even better, we are building training sets of data to apply machine learning to this problem. And with that, we are on a mission to provide personalized learning to every student in the world. If you'd like to join in, please do so online at differ.chat or by speaking with me or my colleague Matthew in the green shirt after this talk. Thank you very much.
That was 7 minutes of innovation on artificial intelligence. Now, I don't know whether many of you have heard about what blockchain education is, but if you're interested in the topic, stay for 7 more minutes. I'd like to introduce, and please join me to welcome Pierre Noizat, co-founder and CEO of Paymium.
Thank you. Thank you and good afternoon. Yes, I'm the founder of Paymium, which is a Bitcoin startup, a blockchain startup, one of the first in the world, actually. We started in 2011. And the reason I'm here today is because I like trees and I want to save trees. Because diplomas tend to be pieces of paper today, in most schools. And the only way to turn them into digital items and is really to be able to authenticate those electronic diplomas. As a student, I had a hard time sometimes getting a certified copy or the paper copy of my diploma. And the thing we can do with blockchain is track things in general, but in particular, especially here today, diplomas, credentials, education credentials, etc. But for now, we are talking to a few schools. 2 have signed up to start authenticating their diplomas with us. So if you are a school, you are running a school, please contact us about that. It's a proof of concept today, but it's already working. People can use it, and we hope it will become more widespread over the next years. So what's happening? What's the connection with blockchain? It's not only authentication of documents. In general, blockchain is one of the components of this digital revolution, so-called digital revolution. You've heard about AI a lot this afternoon, and I think it's a big subject. Blockchain is another component of this digital revolution. The third being big data. AI feeds on big data, and blockchain is a way to make data more interoperable in general. So what's happening is illustrated here. It's going very fast. You see, from 2000 to today, we had a big change in terms of what are the top companies in the world. In 2001, you had these black boxes. They were all traditional companies. In 2016, the top 5 companies in the world were all software companies. It's a software-mediated economy that's put in place. And this transition is very rapid. It's very fast. Our ecosystem, the blockchain ecosystem is evolving also very fast. So that's one of the things that we can witness every day. So this use case in education is interesting. Quite honestly, I'm not sure that's the most lucrative use case for blockchain. But if I'm here today, it's because I think education is very important anyways. So the way this digital economy is being built today is based on centralized servers. So we have big servers capturing all the data and the value and getting very rich very quickly. That's because it's all centralized, and some people like myself are envisioning another way to build this digital economy, which is more decentralized, based on free software with citizen empowerment in the back of the mind, and typically breaking this paradigm here where we are, in fact, the clerks of these companies. We are entering data in these servers, and then we pay products, we pay these servers with the advertising that they are selling with our data. So this is a vicious circle, in fact, because in this context, the value chain is very centralized. So blockchain is about breaking this, and to sum things up, it's a database, it's a server, if you will, without an administrator, without a center. So we have a database that's replicated thousands of times around the globe, and that's the way a blockchain works compared to traditional database. So we have this in money. So today, Paymium is clearly focusing on monetary applications of the blockchain, and education and document authentication is, like I said, pro bono work we do for the community, because it's important to educate people in this digital age. So Bitcoin, for instance, the most known blockchain, the one that started in 2009, so it's been over 6 years now that it's running very smoothly. Sometimes people ask about the governance of this entity. It's a new entity. There is no company behind Bitcoin, behind these blockchains. They work with something akin to game theory, if you will. There is an equilibrium of powers between users, software developers, and people we call miners, which are in effect verifying the transactions and ensuring the security of the blockchain. So we end up with a database that, so I will move up because we have not much time. So I will move up a few slides. Okay. We end up with a database that's global. It's distributed, like I said, over thousands of computers. It's open data. Anybody can access this database with an Explorer, any software, free software that you can build. You can build your own. And it's tamper resistant, meaning there is no authority can ask someone to modify the database. It's physically impossible with an algorithm that's called proof of work, that's at the heart of the invention of Bitcoin in 2008. It's very important to have that in mind when we think about authenticating documents in the blockchain. We need to have this tamper resistance because we want the proof, the signature of the school to be very durable and very resilient over the lifetime of the diploma that is hopefully many years to come. So that's the property we find in a blockchain. We don't find in a centralized database in traditional ways of authenticating documents. You have a centralized server, and you have basically a third party that's providing a service, and it's not the most efficient way to do that. So how does it work? Because we have very little time today, we'll move on to how does it work? What does it do? So essentially that means you can now issue diplomas as PDF files to your students, and they can then get a proof file, a document that will prove the authenticity of this PDF file. Whereas if you just give them a PDF copy, an electronic copy of that diploma, it's just too easy to fake, to Photoshop a diploma today, and it questions the authenticity of these documents on the internet. With this service, you can be, recruiters and companies can easily check the authenticity of the documents. So this proof document, if you will, is this one here. Well, here I have only 2 diplomas, but imagine we have typically about 100 diplomas for a class. So the class has a proof document that the student gets along with his diploma. So when he's talking to a company, or he can send both documents, his diploma, his or her diploma, and the proof document. And the proof document is logged in the blockchain, and I can check it with a blockchain explorer, any blockchain explorer. Here I'm giving an example, but there are many of them available. So it's, it looks a bit geeky today. It's not exactly mainstream. We are, like I said, educating schools and the students about blockchain. I do it several times a year, and we even offer classes to talk about blockchain technology to companies. But in the end, we have a very reliable system. Like I said, the steps to verify the document is I verify the digital hash of the document, and then I find this hash in the blockchain in a transaction that's signed by the school with a key that's attributed to the school, and that certifies that this document has been indeed issued by the school. So this is the explorer that I was mentioning before. So to verify the authenticity of the diploma, once I have my proof document, the proof document can be checked only once, and we know it is authentic. Then to check the authenticity of a diploma, they only needed to check that the hash of this diploma is indeed in the list here. So it's a 2-step verification, but it can be very quickly performed by utility software. Okay, so that's what I had to say about authentication of diplomas. If you're interested in participating in this proof of concept, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you about that a bit more. Thank you.
We have next 2 great speakers, but the next one has a very mysterious title. It's about the self-driving car for education. I'd like to welcome Jaeques, Koeman, CEO of EDIA from Netherlands.
Everybody, close your eyes. Hi, I'm Jaeques. I'm from EDIA, the company behind 360 AI for Education. Today I want to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to our bigger idea. That's the self-driving car for education. Not exactly this one. With bigger, I mean bigger than the Netflix for education. A couple of weeks ago, I published an article which was about why we need the self-driving car for education instead of the Netflix for education. The article basically has 2 messages to the reader. The first one is basically that we can't take the performance of humans, of human teachers, as a measure for the performance of education technology. The second message in the article is that we think that we need a symbiosis of multiple intelligent technologies to support personalized learning at scale. Let's take a little step further back. UNESCO last year released statistics saying that by 2030, we will need approximately 69 million teachers to provide for quality universal primary and secondary education. So to my mind, actually, a factor of that figure is the amount of young people that face inadequate education. So at 360 AI, we think that we can automate certain teacher tasks. But in order to do so, we would actually need multiple smart, intelligent systems to work and interact simultaneously, as is the case with a self-driving car. Is it slow? Okay, so we'll skip that. So by automating certain cognitive tasks, and we call that augmenting the teacher, we actually have the idea that we can make better, more use of the time of the teachers. So let's have a look on how actually multiple intelligent systems would work together in education as an analogy to that self-driving car. So given a learning goal, we would actually need to navigate a curriculum towards our learning destination. Now that's quite similar to how a car navigation system would actually navigate towards a destination, recommend the best route on the basis of a map. And given certain learning material, we actually need to assess how to master a certain topic at hand. And that's actually quite similar to systems that can interpret traffic signs and traffic rules. And given a learning goal and content, we actually need to make sure that the student stays motivated and is positively engaged with the learning material at hand. And that's actually quite similar to crash detection, lane assistance, and vehicle control systems in a self-driving car. I'm having troubles with this. But I think the more general point that we're trying to make here is the following. Reliable and safe mobility doesn't really leave room for error. And that's also the reason why we build a perfect symbiosis between multiple intelligent systems into our autonomous car. Similarly, I think education is a high-stake and complex environment, and therefore we also need a perfect interplay between multiple intelligent systems. So look at Intel. They provide computing power, data analytics for the autonomous car. 360 AI provides computation and data analytics for what we now call autonomous teaching and learning systems. So 360 AI deploys natural language processing and machine learning software that has accumulated over a decade. The software has mined, analyzed, and classified. This is not going the right way. It's missing something. Over 300 million learning objects. It also has provided personalized learning material to over 100,000 students without human intervention. The humans can still intervene if they want, but we've built it that it's an autonomous vehicle. It's missing something. Anyway, so the Society of Automotive Engineers introduced a taxonomy for autonomous driving. And I think actually that, again, is quite useful for our industry. It certainly provides a roadmap for the development of a self-driving car that we at 360i set out to build. And as it happens, I think by now we're actually moving towards level 3, just as some of the new cars that are being released later this year are. So there's, again, a pretty good similarity. Not sure how many teachers are out there here, but I guess I have one more message. And that's what I think that 360i wants to show to you. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Thank you.